Football is one of the most competitive sports globally, which means tensions sometimes run high, and teams and players fight for more than just goals. But sometimes, it's more than just the game but the situation surrounding the time. Whatever the case, these periods often leave some footballers in tears. John Terry was one of the greatest centre-backs of his generation and could easily be included in the list of the best defenders ever. He had his lowest moments, like the Wayne Bridge scandal, in which Terry allegedly pulled off a Mauro Icardi on his teammate. But that incident had no bearing on his career, and he still went on to win silverware and retire as a decorated Chelsea legend. However, he didn't always get away with everything. In 2008, there was an All-English Champions League final. Terry's Chelsea faced off against Fergie's Manchester United. What ensued was the most tightly contested and nerviest match. In the end, the winner was decided by penalties. Terry missed a crucial penalty kick, blasting the ball out of the stadium, which gave United a leg up to win the trophy. Many years after that incident, United fans continued to taunt the ex-Chelsea skipper about the incident. Thierry Henry is a legend for both country and club. He's still admired for his time at Arsenal, where he made his mark as one of the best readers of the game and a lethal goalscorer. He was part of the Arsenal Invincibles, who finished the season without losing a single Premier League match. At Barcelona, he won the Champions League. At international level, he won the World Cup with France too. He never quite won a Ballon d'Or, but an illustrious career nonetheless. The moment that brought the Frenchman to tears came in 2003. Marc-Vivien Foe, who was playing in the Confederations Cup semi-final match between Colombia and Cameroon, suddenly collapsed and passed away on the pitch. To say his demise shook the football world is an understatement. Onlookers were devastated. Henry, who was in the tournament too, with France playing Turkey in the semis, could not hold back his tears. For a player who's been held up as the GOAT of football, Cristiano Ronaldo still plays with the hunger and motivation of a youngster who's hardly won anything. Champions League trophies, 5 Ballon d'Or awards, a Euros trophy and league trophies across the Premier League, Serie A and La Liga. Yet we've seen the Portuguese forward break down in tears or storm off in anger several times. He's just that passionate about the sport and cannot even concede losing. In 2004, Ronaldo, who was only 19 at the time, was called up for the Portuguese senior squad for the European Championships. Portugal, the host nation, were high-flying all tournament and even made it to the finals. Their opponent was Greece, who defied all expectations to make it that far. Everyone assumed Portugal had the trophy in the bag, but that was hardly the case. Greece produced one of the biggest upsets in modern football history. Ronaldo, who looked set to win an international trophy in his debut year, was devastated and in tears by the end of the match. Brazil has one of the best talent pools in world football. At any one time, the country spawns superstars who go on to dominate football. One of such spawns was Pele. Only Pele didn't settle for being just a talent. He was a world beater. While the GOAT debate is between Ronaldo and Messi these days, back then it was Pele versus Maradona. To prove just how good the Brazilian was, he won the 1958 World Cup at 17. This cemented his place in football folklore and made him a messianic figure in his home country. After winning the much-coveted trophy, Pele was photographed with tears streaming down his face as he was raised aloft by teammate Dijk and congratulated by Orlando and Gilmar for his immense contribution to the team's success. He went on to win 3 World Cups, a feat only he has achieved. Here's another Brazilian superstar who set the world alight, Neymar. He's had a good career at the top, but he's also frustratingly underachieved. He achieved a lot at Barcelona, but upon leaving for PSG, everything went downhill, didn't it? Make no mistake, he bagged serious numbers and silverware during his time with the Parisian Giants. But his reason for leaving Barcelona was to escape Messi's gigantic shadow. He never quite did that, did he? He provided good competition for Mbappe, but the difference in their talents was clear as night and day. Not to add that Neymar didn't quite achieve anything at international level. Instead, his career was largely plagued by injuries and scandals, until ultimately he bowed out of European football at just 31 years of age. This was all the proof the world needed that the Brazilian was done. The one low point in Neymar's life that forced him to tears was in the 2018 World Cup against Costa Rica. Brazil could not afford to lose or draw the match, so after 90 minutes of a stalemate, things got testy in extra time. In the end, the Seleção emerged victorious thanks to goals from Neymar and Coutinho. Even though Brazil had gone through, the mental stress had gone to Neymar, who broke down in tears after the match. The best way to describe Jack Wilshere's playing career is alright. He won some silverware, but it was nothing spectacular. A couple of league and FA Cups, nothing particularly mind-blowing. But he was good at his style of play, which is how he managed to remain on Arsenal's books for so long, and he's now a coach, managing the Arsenal under-18s. One of the moments in his football career that made him cry was in the 2011 Carling Cup. The Gunners took on Birmingham City in a must-win final, and we're pipped to run out of winners at the end of the day. However, that wasn't what happened. Instead, Arsenal suffered a shameful 2-1 loss, no thanks to the comedy of errors that ensued in the 89th minute. Wilshere was only 19 at the time with a promising future ahead. But the opportunity to lift his first trophy as a teenager and first-team player was snatched away. The Englishman battled back tears at the end of the match. As far as legends of the game go, Gianluigi Buffon is up there. The career longevity of the Italian is mind-blowing. Even better, he spent the bulk of his playing career at the very top of European football, representing both Juventus and PSG, before returning to his boyhood club to wind down into retirement. For years, he was a meme of a player who wouldn't retire even after turning 40. But no one could fault that he was still a great goalie, whose prime lasted longer than anyone could have predicted. As you can imagine, such a lengthy career means Buffon has seen all the highs and lows the sport has to offer. In 2017 though, he experienced a low point that made him cry. It was his final game for the national side, and Italy lost the playoffs to Sweden. That meant they couldn't participate in the 2018 World Cup. For such a huge team with a great history on the international stage, that was a huge blow. Buffon felt it more than most and remarked after the match, "I'm sorry that my final game coincided with us not qualifying for the World Cup. I'm not sorry for myself, but all Italian football." Midfield maestro, set-piece king, David Beckham was him. The Englishman was part of England's golden generation and spent most of his career playing for the biggest clubs like Manchester United, Real Madrid, AC Milan and PSG, but is mostly remembered for being a huge turning point for the MLS when he agreed to join LA Galaxy. Beckham was one of the earliest celebrities in football. He was one of the first people to transcend the sport, much like the Ronaldo brand, which isn't restricted to sports alone but is now more of a lifestyle brand. One of the times he broke down on the pitch was in 2013 when he played for PSG. In the final game of his career against Brest, he was subbed off in the final 10 minutes, and the stadium erupted in a burst of ovation and salutes as one of the best players to ever play the game stepped off the pitch for the last time. He shed happy tears at the sight. Modern-day football fans may not be familiar with Paul Gascoigne, but he was one of the best attacking midfielders of his time. Just how good was he, you ask? He came fourth in the 1990 Ballon d'Or rankings and was the only English player to break into the top 10. Dubbed Gazza by teammates and fans alike, Gascoigne was one of England's best and most important players going into the 1990 World Cup. The Three Lions were on their best form at the tournament, reaching the semi-finals, where they played West Germany. It was a nervy game for a spot in the final, with both teams drawing 0-0 and 1-1 by the end of extra time. But before the match went to penalties, Gazza allegedly fouled Thomas Berthold, who fell to the ground and produced a Neymar-esque performance. Gazza saw yellow. While yellow was merely a caution, Gascoigne had amassed several across the tournament to rule him out for the final. He burst into tears upon realizing this, and the fans were immediately spellbound. Unfortunately, England wouldn't make it to the finals either, losing on penalties to West Germany. Luis Suarez may be underrated because he was born at a time when two monsters ruled the game. In a world without Messi and Ronaldo, the Uruguayan has proved himself enough to contend for the title of the best forward. His career longevity and output further cement the status of his legend, whether it was in the Premier League or La Liga. While Suarez has had multiple teary moments on the pitch, his most emotional one was in the 2013-14 season, when Crystal Palace held Liverpool to a frustrating 3-3 draw. That match was the official end to the Reds' hopes of winning the league, a match that has since been dubbed Kristanbul as the antithesis to the miracle of Istanbul. Rather than seeing out a 3-0 lead, Liverpool let the Eagles complete a comeback to draw the match after Gale was substituted on and bagged a brace late on in the match. Suarez was devastated by the final whistle and pulled his shirt over his head to hide his tears. After stints with Arsenal, Chelsea and PSG, no one can call David Luiz a pudding defender. Sure, he had some horrid performances in his time, but hardly any player has a perfect run of form. Yet there was one instance where Luiz's legacy was very debatable. It was the 2014 World Cup when Brazil faced Germany. The Germans produced a result that left the entire football world shocked into silence, beating the Seleção 7-1. Luiz, who had been horrible the entire match, looked like the most devastated of everyone else on the pitch by the final whistle. Like most Brazilians who witnessed the capitulation of their star-studded side, he wept intensely. We all know Loris Karius' story. No one seems to recall his great form before the 2018 Champions League final. It's almost like he never existed before then. But in one night, Karius went from being the future of the Liverpool project to a keeper swept under the rug. His career never trended upward ever again. It was all downhill from then. The final between Liverpool and Real Madrid was a tightly contested match until Karius produced two howlers that effectively ended the Reds' Champions League chances. First, he gifted the ball to Benzema as he rolled the ball out directly in front of him. Then his terrible attempt to save Bale's long-range rocket. Karius was in tears coming off the pitch, devastated and heartbroken for his costly mistakes, apologizing to the fans. While Karius wept for his participation in sending the Reds home empty-handed, Mohamed Salah cried for not participating in the match. The Egyptian forward was in his best form at the time and was touted as the trump card to break down Los Blancos. But Sergio Ramos put an end to that sentiment in record time, following an awkward challenge that left Salah with a dislocated shoulder. Now out of the UCL and without the trophy, Salah was also facing the possibility of not featuring in the World Cup for Egypt. He cried. A teary Lionel Messi isn't a new sight to football lovers. He cried during his exit ceremony at Barcelona and after several disappointing outings with Argentina. However, he was most inconsolable at the 2016 Copa America. Argentina had reached the final and faced Chile in a close match that ended in a stalemate. The match soon progressed to penalties, and the then Barcelona man stepped up to take the first spot kick. He missed, and Chile went on to win the trophy. Messi could not believe he'd cost himself a trophy. He cried hard and was so devastated that he retired from the national team, albeit briefly. On the final game week of the season, Liverpool played Wolves, winning 2-0. It felt like a routine win and just another end to the season, but something was different at Anfield. Jurgen Klopp had managed his final match at the stadium and would now be leaving the club. It was an emotional time for every Liverpool player and fan alike. The German coach had been a crucial factor in turning the Reds from a struggling team to regular competitors for European competition and league glory. Virgil van Dijk looked like the most tearful player on the pitch that day, and for good reasons too. He came close to winning the Ballon d'Or and has built a legacy as one of the best centre-backs in the game thanks to Klopp. His career's only this good because he was plucked out of mid-table mediocrity at Southampton and coached into a brilliant, reliable defender. Trent was also seen sharing tears as he thanked the German for bringing him through the ranks and giving him the opportunity he needed to win everything club football has to offer. The end of an era is never happy. What are the most emotional moments in football history in your opinion? Please like the video if you enjoyed it and come back for more content like this by hitting the subscribe button.